Here's what's on this episode of Formula World. As always, you can find timestamps for these stories in the description or as a pinned comment. First up on Formula World, Vettel definitely on Mercedes' list. Mercedes boss Toto Wolff has made it clear he wants to keep Hamilton, and provided that Bottas keeps proving his worth, he'll likely keep him too. But the German has admitted that he is still keeping his options open for drivers outside the Mercedes family. Namely, fellow countryman Sebastian Vettel, despite him being locked in at Ferrari for the time being. Sebastian is definitely on our list, but he has a contract until 2020. Until that time, we can only look at our own drivers. Ricciardo's age doesn't matter. Daniel Ricciardo is doing his best to sell his worth to the top teams as his current contract at Red Bull comes to an end. Some people have been concerned that his age might play a role in the final decision, but Daniel himself doesn't see that as a factor. My age is not a disadvantage. I am fast and make little mistakes. Clearly, I want to improve further, and in a sense, it is of course motivating. If things go well, I can put more pressure on my opponents. After the next race, we know if we have a chance in the title fight, and I'm sure we can leave the rest of the field behind us if we're the fastest in development. Verstappen positive for Monaco Grand Prix. Max Verstappen has had a slow start to his season, but finally secured his first podium in Spain. The Dutchman also fancies his chances this week in Monaco, given how he believes the circuit will favour his car. Monaco doesn't have any long straights, so I think it should be a good circuit for us. It is a nice weekend in general, and also very good to sleep in your own apartment. It's a busy week, but also a special week. The track is of course very challenging, but I will enjoy it even more knowing that we have a chance of a good result. Kubica reflects on Montreal crash. Robert Kubica has had his fair share of bad accidents in his time, and one of his biggest was the crash in Montreal back in 2007. Recently, Kubica decided to reflect on his massive crash that could have ended up much worse. When the car got launched, I could see the top of the stands. Normally you can't see that from the track, so I knew I was in big trouble. I remembered an oil leak and that the oil felt hot. When I got out of the car, I realised I was okay. Only my ankle hurt a little. When I told the doctors that I was okay, they looked at me with big eyes because they thought I was in shock. It was a small miracle. Stroll's performance is phenomenal. Lance Stroll is well known for his starts and opening laps, where he almost always manages to find his way several places up the grid. And this is the type of performance that his father is singing praise for. Considering the performance of the car this year, Lance has been doing an amazing job. Even though he can't do better in qualifying with his car, he does really well on the first lap. Besides that, he beat others too that should be unreachable with this car, so from that angle we can only be happy. Grosjean is a professional. Haas driver Romain Grosjean has come under fire as of late, with many criticising his current form, saying it's becoming more reminiscent of his earlier, more reckless days in F1. But his team boss Gunther Steiner still completely backs his driver and believes he will come out of this better off. Sometimes in your career, and in any sporting career, you have downs. Romain is a good driver and he will get back where he belongs. He's now got Monte Carlo coming up, where he's always fast, and I'm sure he cannot wait to get there to prove the naysayers wrong. If something goes wrong, you come back stronger. That's the only thing you can do. We're not even a quarter of the way through the season, so we don't need to panic. With a car like this, he just needs to say, I will have a flawless weekend and I will be fine. A professional can do that, and he's a professional. Leclerc not concerned about Ferrari future. With all the talk whether Charles Leclerc may or may not find himself in a Ferrari soon, you couldn't blame the young Monegasque if he lost track of his current goals. But Leclerc is remaining level-headed and understands his current responsibility lies at Sauber rather than Ferrari. I can of course use the Ferrari simulator, which is very useful. In addition, I receive regular advice from Ferrari, which makes it easier to go through my first season. Apart from that help, I focus entirely on Sauber, and I am not concerned with my possible future at Ferrari. Fast feed. F1 boss Chase Carey says F1 is open to a Berlin Grand Prix if the fans are all for it. Alexander Wirtz tips Red Bull to stay with Renault power. Lance Stroll's father, Lawrence Stroll, says that a blind person could see the problem with the Williams car. Ferrari are expected to have an engine upgrade in Canada worth approximately 20 brake horsepower. Mark Webber calls for more top-flight drivers to race in Formula E following Felipe Massa's new contract. After a tough weekend in Spain, Ross Brawn believes Ferrari will be back on pace in Monaco. Fernando Alonso is excited for his first Monaco race in 2 years, missing the last race to compete in the Indy 500. MotoGP champion Marc Marquez to test with Red Bull Racing. Red Bull have arranged a private test with Marquez along with his teammate Danny Pedrosa and 9-time motocross world champion Tony Cairoli. And Niki Lauda says it's possible for one of the big teams to leave Formula One after 2021 if the new regulations aren't to their liking. Formula World fans react. Has F1 lost its message? On the previous episode of Formula World, I asked if you thought F1 has lost its message, and the results are in. As you can see, a majority of you think that yes, F1 has lost its message, but 35% of you are pretty steadfast thinking no, it hasn't. And 10% of you voted for the somewhat jocular answer of what is F1? Will Vettel eventually race for Mercedes? Be sure to vote in the poll and let me know what you think about this or any of the other stories in the comments. And if you like this video, feel free to subscribe and check out my other videos for all the latest in the world of Formula One.